GOREktyw przesłuchuje.
My favorite Shakespearean play is The Tempest, and I have waited to film it until I was old, because The Tempest is all about getting old and losing power and magic and kind of my life, really, getting fucked. And that's what happened to Prospero. He got screwed by the society. So I waited till I was Prospero's age to make the Tempest, which is our version is called Shakespeare's Shitstorm. There are two themes. One theme is kind of anti-pharmaceutical, because in our country for the last 50 years, 24 hours a day, there are commercials on TV promoting pills. So the little children of 3 generations have grown up being brainwashed by pharmaceutical companies that they must take pills all the time. So everything is a pill, it's a pill, it's a pill. And the point is, the more you take the pharmaceuticals, the more you become allergic and all that. You know, it's a very bad thing. And they don't work on the cure, they work on the symptom. So yes, you will stop a certain symptom, but you won't cure the disease. So every day I have to take a heart pill. Not me, but
Yeah.
why don't they just cure heart disease? They right? They can do it. They can do it. They can cure cancer. They're doing it. But meanwhile, we're every day those poor people and every day they're paying money. So that's one issue. The other issue is we are living in an age of hate. We are living in an age, as I said, where we have freedom of speech as long as we don't say anything. And we have these politically correct idiots, including at Yale University. That's the worst. On campus, it's the worst, because there is no nuance. People don't talk to each other. If you're on the left, you don't listen to the guy on the right. If you're on the right, you don't listen to the guy on the left. And there are many mediocre, untalented people who are trying to become famous and successful by tearing down good people. A perfect example is Kevin Hart. He is a comedian. I don't know if you know him. He's a very short black man. He's funny as fuck, and he's very talented. So he made some jokes about gay people, I don't know. But he has now had to resign from hosting the Academy Awards. And to me, now I hate him. To me, the lamest comedian is the comedian who apologizes for his humor. And, you know, I suppose I have many things in my movies that the snowflakes, that the people who hate on Twitter, that they would like to get me to apologize for. And in fact, James Gunn was kicked off of Guardians of the Galaxy Part 3 because he and I made jokes 10 years ago on Twitter. Not just because of me, but he made some other jokes. And he apologized, too. He apologized, and now he's got kicked out of the most powerful. Disney fired him. But the good news for him, because he's a great guy, he's incredibly talented, and Disney was stupid to fire him. Warner Brothers has hired him now, and he will be directing the next version of Suicide Squad. So he'll take a piece of shit again, like Guardians of the Galaxy. He'll be able to take, I don't mean a piece of shit, I mean something unknown. He'll take something, well, in the case of Suicide Squad, he will take a dead franchise and make it into $1 billion industry. With Guardians of the Galaxy, he took a very obscure franchise. I certainly never heard of it. And it was less known than Toxic Avenger. It was unknown. And he made it into billions of dollars. Yeah. So how stupid was Disney to get rid of him? And he even apologized. So it's a very bad. And so that's the other theme of Shakespeare's Shitstorm, is I don't even know the word. We call them snowflakes. They can't stand. They need to pet puppies. You know, if you wear a Mexican hat, sombrero. If I'm a Jew wearing a Mexican soprano, I'm appropriating Mexican culture. I shouldn't do that. I'm not allowed to do that. So if I masturbate to a Japanese girl, am I appropriating? Is that Is that cultural masturbation appropriation? It's bullshit. So you know, it's all nuts. It's crazy. And it's especially crazy on campus and at Yale University, right? These kids who are getting scholarships, free education, and they are complaining because a professor is talking about slavery, or a professor is talking about the fact that Mao Zedong exterminated millions of people, and they feel that, you know, they insult their they need to go to a safe space They save space, right? They got to pet some puppies. Trigger, right?
That's what we always loved about Troma, that you trigger people for fun.
We're also 20 years ahead of everybody. So when Toxic Avenger was first made, we couldn't get one theater. In fact, we had an investor who never talked to me for 2 years because he took his 13-year-old son to see a private screening for the investors. And I said, don't take your son because this is pretty violent.
It's not a kiddie movie.
Yeah, exactly. But we have a great relationship. The son loved it. The son loved the movie, but the father yanked him out right after the head crushing. The father yanked him out, and it took 2 years before he spoke to me again. So, we are making movies of the future. And we are also disrupting the media, and you can see South Park, 20 years of South Park because of Troma, and that certainly has changed cartoons. Right now, you have all these adult cartoons with people saying "fuck" and "shit," and they're masturbating, and they're all cartoons, right? F is for Family is a cartoon on Netflix now. It's like a Troma movie. In fact, it's in the '80s. It takes place in the '70s and '80s. It could have been a Troma movie. It's terrific. It's great too.
Tell me,
It's French too. I think it's Gaumont French production.
Troma celebrates 45 years this year. How would you sum up this adventure? Because it has its highs, it has its downs. Are there any things that you regret doing with Troma, or are there things that you still want to do that you haven't got time for, and now you think, okay, now it's the time for Troma to do this?
Well, I regret compromise. It never works, and that's why I'm not hired in. But I compromised on Sergeant Kabuki Man NYPD. It's still a great film. People love it. But it could have been a lot better if I would have either made it the Troma way or made it the Namco. Namco, Pac-Man guys, who are now owned by Bandai, it's a huge company. They paid for half the movie, and Troma paid for half the movie. And I didn't listen to them. They owned little theme parks, and they wanted Kabuki Man as a game, as a mainstream character. They wanted Kabuki Man to be in the theme parks, to be a character. And all I knew was I want him to eat worms and, that kind of stuff. And they didn't understand it. And they were very nice, and we kind of compromised. We came halfway, and that was stupid. That was a mistake. There was a lot. I should have either gone all the way Troma or all the way Namco.
Okay, and any dreams for the things that you have always wanted to do, and now it would be the point for doing it?
I don't think I would like to make a musical that based on a John O'Hara short story called Pal Joey. It was made. It's music by Rodgers and Hart. It's very dark, and it's very nihilistic. But the songs are great. It's a wonderful. And the movie they made a movie. Frank Sinatra and big stars, but the direction was terrible and the movie sucks. So I would like to do a proper version of that. But there's no way that Richard Rodgers' estate or Lorenz Hart estate is going to let Lloyd Kaufman make a $500,000 movie on Pal Joey. And somebody probably will do it, maybe, but it'll be $50 million. Okay. So that would be, if all my dreams came true. But right now, I'm very happy with Shakespeare's Shitstorm. It's my best film and the most interesting, and my wife likes it. That's very important. So I've been lucky. I shouldn't complain. I'm very bitter. I'm absolutely bitter. I hate everybody. But, it's very unfair. And when you're an independent artist, you have your face shoved in shit. You can't imagine how many original ways God comes up with how to shove your face in shit. So many different... you guys are great with the English. I can't believe you could... I'm talking a mile a minute. There's always different ways to... You can be humiliated a million ways, and it will happen. And I'm always amazed at how original God can be. In fact, one of the themes of Return to Nukem High Volume 1 and Return to Nukem High Volume 2 is everybody is saying these horrible things. What kind of God? And it's one of the themes of the movies, because I'm sorry to insult you, but I don't believe there is God. I went to an Episcopalian school too. I'm Jewish, But my parents sent us to very good schools, and all boys Episcopalian school. We had chapel every morning, and I loved the hymns, and I loved Jesus's philosophy much better than, I much prefer turn the other cheek and love thy neighbor as thyself, and much better than an eye for an eye. But I learned the hymns, 12 years. I know most of the hymns, but this God thing, the whole thing is horseshit. It keeps women down. I don't, no reason to tell you, but so that's one of the themes of Return to Nukem High, because I see my life as just luck. I'm lucky enough to be born American, right? I won the lottery just being born American in 1945. That was America's, right? I lived through the golden age of, now we're becoming Venezuela. But how lucky was I? So I never had to worry about eating. I never had to worry about a roof over my head, right? If I spent a year in Chad, in Africa, those fucking people, $40, what was their income? $40 a month. They were happy if they had something to eat and some kind of mud roof. They couldn't think about, should I be an artist? Should I make a movie? Right? So I shouldn't complain, but the world is still very unfair, and the industry of movies is a horrible, horrible industry.
You've said that you are bitter, but you create movies, and your and Troma's part in pop culture is has a big comedian side. You create jokes, you entertain people. Where is the bitterness in that? We can't see it as fans, as you know, as the audience.
Well, I like happy endings. I hope there is a happy ending, and I enjoy the making of the films. But to have the kind of movies we make, and they're great, and I spend. Return to Nukem High Volume 1 and Return to Nukem High Volume 2. It's really an epic project, and there's nobody giving us even one sentence of praise. Our fans are, you are, but that movie is better than 90% of movies coming out in movie theaters and on all the HBOs, and your TV has no Troma, your streaming has no Troma. So, I'm bitter about that, because the system is controlled by 5 or 6 old men and governments, and it's a club. It's a club, and if you're not in the club, you're fucked. And also, they want to own your art, right? They want to own it.
But you stayed true to yourself during all these years.
Well, that's the idea, yeah. And I've been lucky. I've got 50 years of making a number of movies. I still have the same wife, and my partner, Michael Hers, who never appears in public, a great guy, and we've been partners. Pretty unique, and I've been. How lucky am I, right? So far I haven't died of AIDS yet, and I had syphilis. I've had every disease like syphilis and all that, but I haven't had cancer. I did have a cancer. I had a melanoma, but it was okay.
You're a survivor.
Lucky. It's a lot of it is luck and showing up.
About your partner, Michael Hers, why doesn't he show up in public? You just divided that this one is for public, this one is for working inside the office?
No, Michael and I were supposed to continue directing movies together. Okay. He is a great director and better than I, and he has seen every movie in the world, and he's the nicest guy, and he's handsome, and he's funny. And he's nicer than I am. He's not as manic depressive, I get I go up and down a lot. He's great. But after about 10 years, once Troma became successful, Michael didn't want to do television and journalists and go to Cannes, and he didn't want to be in the public. He doesn't like trying to get publicity and being interviewed, and because most of it were stupid people
asking stupid questions,
and also being against us. They had us on just to, you just make sex films. That's all you do. You just want, you are making, that kind of stuff. So he got, he didn't like that, and as I mentioned, I think both of us believe that most of the industry are scumbags too. So he doesn't want to be in that world of MiFed, big market in Italy, The distributors from all over the world, they're scumbags. Most of the producers are scumbags. The people, the agents are scumbags. It's a scumbag industry. And there's maybe 1% of the people in the industry, according to my 50 years, they're the greatest people in the world. John Voight, he has won two Academy Awards. I'm pretty friendly with him. He's terrific. He's a saint. He's idealistic. He's a humanitarian. He's wonderful. James Gunn is great. Eli Roth is great. Gabe Friedman, who wrote Poultrygeist and was our editor for 10 years, he's the best guy in the world. Trent Hager, they're great people. You couldn't have better people. So it's kind of yin and yang. My major at Yale University was Chinese studies, and other than drugs and Marvel comics, the only thing I learned at Yale was yin and yang, was Taoism, the thing with the yin and the yang, and an oyster gets it. Pain and evil, evil and good are always together, and you don't have pain without pleasure. They come together. Oyster gets a piece of sand stuck in its asshole, and it's very painful, but produces a beautiful pearl, that kind of thing. So that's been a big guiding philosophy of my life, and helps me to accept the getting my face shoved in shit constantly. They're good questions. And you're a good psychiatrist. You're like a psychiatrist.
What if I want to, for example, buy a DVD for my colleague? I have to, yank it from States or something. Do you think that there is a chance that young, passionate Troma fans, not only living in the US, but also like here in Europe, are we able to cooperate somehow to, bring you here?
I have an idea. Well, Monica is a fan. And she called up this big company named, I can't pronounce it, but they own 200 channels. What is it?
Cyfrowy Polsat. It's a digital Polsat.
Yeah. She found a young woman there who is a fan of Troma. But she answers to the white guy, the white man, the big white man. And but if you call her, maybe, why don't I take a picture of this? And maybe you could give her a call and leave a voicemail or send her an email and say, there are 1,000. I just went to Kazakhstan. There's no distribution there, and it's a Muslim country, and they don't speak English. And we had, there was a retrospective in their festival of 7 Troma movies, and huge crowds, and no distribution, just word of mouth. I was in Japan, and I went to see Killer Condom with a young woman, and it was, what the hell was it? It was like in Spanish, Japanese subtitles or something, but at least it was playing somewhere. But they gave me something they called it soft acid, okay. LSD, but soft, mild, and it was great. I really enjoyed it. And then after that, I got because the acid made me stay up all night. I happened to find on television in my hotel room Buster Keaton's The General, which is a silent movie, but they put sound, they put voices on. It wasn't, Buster Keaton being the greatest filmmaker in history wasn't good enough. They had to add that, and they put in his shit sound effects and. But it stayed with me, of course, how brilliant that movie was. At any rate, I remember Killer Condom. The guy who directed it is a huge Troma fan, and H.R. Geiger, the special effects guy, big Troma fan. So, the producer of that movie produced The English Patient, Academy Award winning, and he spent about $8 million on Killer Condom. Nobody would touch it. So we paid them some money to get the rights. But we only had it for 20 years, and now it's expired, and we really can't pay any money. We don't have any money, so but it's a great film. It's a pity. It's way ahead of its time.